Ever wonder what you're really made of? Today, we're diving deep into a world that exists inside every single one of us, a bustling, microscopic city that's the very foundation of, well, you. We are, of course, talking about the cell.
Okay, take a look at this. These are your red blood cells. And your body? It contains trillions of them. I mean, that's trillions with a T. It's almost impossible to imagine, and each one has a super specific job. Literally everything you do, thinking, moving, even breathing, it's all powered by this incredible team effort.
So here's a wild thought. What do you, a giant squid that's like 30 feet long, and a single ostrich egg all have in common? I know, it sounds like the start of a really weird joke, right? Well, the answer is the cell. It's the smallest, most basic unit of all living things. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny little bacterium or a complex creature like us, the cell is the one thing, the fundamental building block that connects all life on this planet. Pretty amazing.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to take a tour of this cellular city. First, we'll look at the blueprint of life, how we even found out about cells. Then, we'll take a tour inside. After that, we'll compare a couple of different city designs. And finally, we'll check out the city's gatekeeper.
Okay, let's get started. Section 1, the blueprint of life, and how we discovered this incredible microscopic world.
You know, we didn't always know about cells. This whole understanding took centuries to build. It really started back in 1665 when a guy named Robert Hooke looked at a piece of cork under a microscope and saw these tiny, small rooms. A few years later, Anton van Leeuwenhoek found this whole hidden universe of little animalcules, what we now know are bacteria and protozoa. But it took until the 1830s for scientists to finally connect the dots and realize, hey, wait a minute, all plants and all animals are made of these things. And then the last big piece of the puzzle came from Rudolf Virchow, who figured out that cells can only come from, well, other cells.
So, you take all of those incredible aha moments, and what do you get? You get what we call the cell theory. And this is like the bedrock of all modern biology. It's really just three simple but super powerful ideas. 1, every living thing is made of cells. 2, the cell is the smallest, most basic unit of life. And 3, all new cells have to come from cells that are already there. That's it. Simple, right?
Okay, so we've got the basic rules down. Now for the fun part. Let's actually go inside one of these cells and see how this amazing little city works.
So, every good city needs a city hall, right? A control center. For the cell, that's the nucleus. This is where the cell keeps its DNA. Think of it as the city's official blueprints. This genetic code has all the instructions the cell will ever need for everything, from its day-to-day jobs to knowing exactly when it's time to divide and make new cells.
All right, next up we have the city's highway system and its factories. That's the endoplasmic reticulum, or just ER for short. Now, there are two parts. You've got the rough ER, which is called rough because it's covered in these little factories called ribosomes. They're the ones cranking out all the proteins. Then you have the smooth ER, and its job is to make lipids, fats and oils. So together, these two are building and shipping stuff all over the cell.
So once all that stuff is made, where does it go? Well, it gets sent to the city's post office, the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi is like the ultimate logistics hub. It collects everything, packages it up nice and neat, and then distributes the proteins and lipids. It's like it puts the final shipping label on the package and sends it exactly where it needs to go, whether that's somewhere else in the cell or even outside of it.
Of course, a city can't run without power, right? And that's where the mitochondria come in. You've probably heard this before. They are the powerhouses of the cell. They take the food we eat and, through a process called respiration, turn it into usable energy. They fuel absolutely everything. And it's why cells that do a ton of work, like your muscle cells, are just jam-packed with thousands and thousands of these little power plants.
So, we've had a nice tour of a typical city, but here's the thing. Not all cities are built from the same blueprint. So let's compare a couple of different designs.
Okay, so on the most basic level, you've got two main designs. On the left, you see a prokaryotic cell, think bacteria, and on the right, a eukaryotic cell. That's what we're made of. The biggest difference is actually hidden in their names. Prokaryotic literally means before nucleus, so its DNA, its blueprints, just kind of float around inside. But eukaryotic means true nucleus, and you can see it right there. Its DNA is all tucked away safely inside that central city hall we talked about.
Now, even within that eukaryotic world, there are two major city plans to look at, animal cells and plant cells.
And if you just glance at them, they look pretty similar, right? They both have a nucleus, they both have mitochondria, but when you look a little closer, you start to see some really important differences that totally change what each cell can do.
And here are those key differences laid out. Plant cells, for one, have this super rigid cell wall on the outside for support. That's what gives them their fixed, kind of rectangular shape. They also have chloroplasts. Those are the little solar panels that let them do photosynthesis. And a huge vacuole, basically a big water tank. Animal cells, they don't have any of that stuff, which is what allows them to be much more flexible and round.
All right, last stop on our tour. A city isn't an island, right? It has to interact with the world around it. So let's talk about the cell's gatekeeper, the part that controls everything coming in and going out.
So that gatekeeper is the cell membrane. It's what separates the inside of the cell from the outside. And here's a really simple way to think about how stuff gets across it. Imagine you're rolling a ball on a hill. Letting it roll downhill, that's easy, takes no energy. But trying to push that same ball uphill, well, that's going to take some work.
That easy, downhill movement is what we call passive transport. The most common type is called diffusion. And all it is molecules naturally moving from a place where there's a lot of them to a place where there are fewer of them. It happens all by itself, no energy needed. This is exactly how super important stuff like the oxygen you breathe gets into your cells.
Here's a perfect example. Just think about dropping some ink into a glass of water. The ink molecules don't just stay in one blob, do they? Nope. They naturally spread out, moving from that super crowded drop into the rest of the water until everything is one color. That's diffusion, right there in front of you.
Now, there's a special kind of diffusion called osmosis. It's basically just the diffusion of water across a membrane. And the rule is simple. Water will always try to move to an area where there's more stuff dissolved in it. This is absolutely critical for keeping the water balance just right inside our cells. And we actually use it in the real world all the time. You know how salting meat preserves it? That's osmosis. The salt pulls all the water out of any bacteria, which stops them from growing.
So when you really step back and think about it, the whole picture is just mind-boggling. Right now, as you're listening to this, there are trillions of these tiny microscopic cities inside you, all working together in perfect harmony to make you, well, you. So what keeps them all running? It's this incredible, intricate system. It's a powerful reminder that the biggest, most complex things in life are often built on the smallest, most amazing foundations.